In today's fast-paced world, where everyone's trying to hustle harder, the question remains, what separates the super successful from the rest of us? Well, the answer is often simpler than we think. It's all about mindset. When we look at figures like Elon Musk, Tim Ferriss, and Peter Thiel, there's one thing that stands out. The way they think about problems, opportunities, and risks is fundamentally different. But how? Let's break it down. And trust me, it's not as complex as it sounds. First off, take Elon Musk. Musk is one of the most polarizing figures in tech today. But what makes him different isn't just his ability to launch rockets or build electric cars. It's his first principles thinking. Musk, unlike most people who solve problems based on assumptions or learned experiences, strips everything down to the most basic elements and starts from scratch. He doesn't ask, how can we improve on this idea? Instead, he asks, what's the fundamental problem we're trying to solve, and how can we approach it from the ground up? For example, when building SpaceX, Musk didn't accept the high costs of rockets. Instead of settling for the status quo, he took the most expensive components of a rocket and broke them down into raw materials. The result? He reduced rocket manufacturing costs by more than 90%. Now, that's not just brilliant, that's revolutionary thinking. Now, let's talk about Tim Ferriss. Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek, has built an empire around hacking productivity and maximizing impact with minimal effort. His strategy is about finding the 80-20th principle, the idea that 80% of results come from just 20% of your efforts. In Ferriss's world, it's not about working harder, but working smarter. He focuses on the most important tasks that yield the highest rewards and eliminates everything else. He calls this selective ignorance, where he intentionally ignores anything that doesn't directly move the needle. Whether it's reading emails or making unnecessary meetings, Ferriss focuses only on what adds the most value to his life. So, what does this mindset do for him? Ferriss can travel the world, manage multiple businesses, and still make time for his health and personal life, all while maintaining an incredibly high level of success. It's about removing unnecessary clutter to make room for what really matters. Then, we have Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal and an early investor in Facebook. Thiel's big idea is that competition is for losers. Sounds harsh, right? But Thiel doesn't mean it in a typical way. He believes that to truly innovate, you need to find and dominate a niche where you don't have to compete with others. Instead of racing against other companies in a crowded market, Thiel advises focusing on creating something so unique that it's essentially in a category of its own. By doing this, you sidestep the brutal wars of competition and create a monopoly, but not in a bad way. Thiel views monopolies as good for innovation, because they allow companies to focus on improving their products and services without the constant pressure to lower prices or fight for market share. So, how does this translate to your personal life? Well, it's about finding opportunities where you can carve out your own path, instead of getting stuck in the rat race. It's about thinking outside the box and building something that no one else can replicate. It's not about just doing what everyone else is doing. It's about finding your unique angle. Next, let's look at Naval Ravikant, the founder of AngelList and one of the most well-known thinkers in Silicon Valley. Naval's philosophy is rooted in the idea that wealth isn't just about money, it's about freedom. To Naval, true success comes from the ability to control your time and your choices. He talks about seeking specific knowledge that makes you irreplaceable. This means focusing on the skills in areas where you can provide unique value. It's not about doing what's popular or trendy. It's about becoming the best at something that no one else can easily replicate. Naval also talks a lot about building wealth without taking on the burden of working yourself to death. This means leveraging things like technology and automation, which is why he's so big on investing in companies that are scaling without needing large teams of employees. Think of it like this. If you can work in a niche where you can develop deep expertise, while also utilizing tech to create leverage, then you'll be in a position to build wealth without sacrificing your freedom. But it's not just about the what, it's also about the how. The mindset of people like Naval, Musk, Ferriss, and Thiel is shaped by a few key principles. Long-term thinking. They are willing to endure short-term pain for long-term gain. Risk tolerance. They are okay with taking big bets, knowing that failure isn't the end. First principles thinking. They break things down to their most basic truths and build back up. Non-conformity. They don't follow the herd. Instead, they chart their own path. The beauty of these frameworks is that they aren't reserved for the Silicon Valley elite. They're accessible to anyone willing to adopt them, whether you're in finance, tech, or any other industry. Applying these principles can radically change the way you approach your career, your personal life, and your wealth. So, what can you do today to think like these brilliant minds? Start by simplifying the problems you face. Apply first principles thinking. Prioritize your most important tasks, and stop chasing every opportunity. Find a niche that suits your unique strengths, and don't be afraid to embrace risk when it aligns with your long-term goals. If you can start adopting these mindsets, you'll find yourself not only more successful but also more fulfilled. It's about working smarter, thinking deeper, and daring to be different. In the end, that's what sets the greats apart, and it's what will set you apart too.